Tonight, we will be participating in many different ways. One is by using the reaction feature. So let's test that out now. Please locate your reaction button and use that. I see a thumbs up, party emoji. Wonderful. Looks like we found that reaction button. You are free to do this during tonight's session as long as it is appropriate to what is being discussed. You will also have the opportunity to have the mic in tonight's session as well. I just ask that you raise your hand to participate, and once called upon, you can unmute yourself. Then the final way you will be able to participate tonight is through the chat feature. So we're going to take a moment to locate the chat feature and test it out by answering this question for me, please. What are you hoping to learn about tonight? Please answer that question in the chat. What are you hoping to learn about tonight? Everything? Awesome, enthusiastic all around. Anything else you are excited to learn more about tonight? We're testing out that chat feature. More about how government works and to meet some new people. We do have some new women leaders that we're going to meet tonight. I'm excited to meet them and hear from them as well. Awesome. So finally, if you're having any technical issues or have a personal question, please directly message me, your host for the evening. And you can find Kelly, GSSEM host. So we are going to go ahead and get started. So what better way to kick off tonight's session than with our first guest speaker? So our first guest speaker featured this evening is Commissioner Karin Hopman. So just a little bit about her before I pass the mic on over to her. Commissioner Hopman is the Finance and HR Director at Disability Advocates of Kent County. Commissioner Hopman ensures that everything about the organization's finances, steps, and reports is correct and follows the rules. Prior to joining Disability Advocates, Hopman worked as Recorder and Finance Director at the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, Local 951, and Treasurer of the UFCW 951 Foundation. Commissioner Hopman was appointed by Governor Gretchen Whitmer in 2021 to serve on the Michigan Women's Commission, with the goal of discussing how disability intersects with the barriers faced by women. Hopman resides in Rockford, Michigan. She enjoys spending time with her two daughters who attend Michigan State University, and she graduated from Calvin College with an accounting degree and earned her MBA from Western Michigan University in 2013. So without further ado, let's give a warm and Girl Scout welcome to Commissioner Hopman, and she is going to talk with us now.
Hi, everybody. It's so awesome to be with everybody this evening. I'm Karin Hopman, and I think it's really fun to be participating with the Girl Scouts this evening. So I really appreciate you asking me to join you this evening. As mentioned previously, I'm part of the Michigan Women's Commission, and I was originally appointed in 2022. We have several committees that we work on with the commission, and I'm chair of a committee that's called Unlocking Opportunities. In this committee, we focus on removing barriers to work and education for the women of Michigan. It's really an honor to be part of that group. I'm also the Finance and HR Director for Disability Advocates. We're a voice for women with disabilities in their workplaces. These women have the highest unemployment rate in our population, and I work on making that better for women. So I believe in a very inclusive workplace. I love working for an organization that's helping people. So the organization that I work for is a nonprofit, which means that we don't exist to make money, but we do need money to do our work. One of our goals is to make a difference in the lives of people that we serve. So what I'd ask of you this evening is to think about something that you feel strongly about. Do you want to help kids? Do you want to help adults? Do you love our country? Do you love our state? Do you feel strongly about our environment? What are your values? So think about this and think about how this might affect your future career. So I feel in my career that I've found something that I have a gift for, which is managing money. So it's not something everybody likes to do, but numbers really make sense to me. So I found something that I feel I have a gift for, and I've been able to find an organization where I can use that gift. And I feel especially lucky because this organization is one that helps people who have disabilities live more inclusive lives. So I encourage each of you to think about something that you are passionate about and think about finding a career that fits with your passion. And then going to work will be something that you love to do every day. So you girls are the future of Michigan. The fact that you're here on a Friday night tells me all that you have bright futures. Each of you can make a difference and make an impact. Speaking of making an impact, I want to introduce you to Teri Langley. I feel so fortunate to have met Teri, and I'm sure you will all feel the same. So Teri is currently the Executive Director with Disability Michigan. Prior to working for Disability Michigan, Teri spent most of her career working for both the Michigan Senate and the House of Representatives, where she served in key roles. She worked for several senators that were both recognized statewide as champions for their advocacy for improving mental health services and their work to educate colleagues on the gaps and barriers that exist in services for people with disabilities. In her current role, Teri advocates on behalf of the state's 15 centers for independent living, like the one that I work at in Grand Rapids, Michigan. These are resource centers for people with disabilities of all ages. Through her work at Disability Network Michigan, Teri's focused on making Michigan accessible for everyone, whether it's increasing access to recreation, learning, or employment. Teri works to ensure that people with disabilities are helping to create and carry out plans for themselves and to make Michigan a great place for everyone to live, work, and play. Teri graduated from Michigan State University, where she earned her bachelor's degree in political science. So welcome, Teri. Teri, it looks like your mic is still muted.
Let me see if I can ask to have you unmuted.
Can you hear me?
There
Sure
we go.
can.
There's
There we go.
I'm so sorry about that. Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
I have to be on my phone. I apologize. But I'm making it work. So hopefully you don't see the any interruptions. I am so excited to be with you tonight. And I think Karin hit it spot on for all of you to be on this call on a Friday night. Thank you so much for giving us your attention. I am just very excited to talk to you about what I do and how I got started. Seeing all of you on the screen and knowing what I was thinking when I was your age, I wouldn't have guessed that I would be here talking to all of you today. So I'm excited. Do you want me to just go into it? And okay. So as Karin said, I worked for about 21 years in the Michigan legislature. And prior to that, I started with a congressman. And to be honest, I just was driving around my hometown and needed a job and saw his sign. And I went into his office and asked if he had any internships. And then the rest is history, as they say. So I learned a lot from him. And then when I was working for the congressman, a state senator who shared his district, she and I worked together quite often, and she had an opening in her office and she asked if I would come work for her. So that's how I got in Lansing. And then in Lansing, I worked for 2 senators, and then I went over to the House of Representatives and worked for 2 representatives. And it was a lot of fun. I I would encourage all of you to study government and to go into that field, because if there's anything that I am more passionate about, it is our government, it's our country. And I can tell you that I first got interested in political science in high school, in my government class. And then I took a civics class. And then when I went to college, I wanted to be a lawyer. And then it didn't work out, which was fine, because we all make decisions that change our lives. And this one definitely changed my life for the better. I advocate on behalf of people with disabilities. I help support and promote all of the centers for independent living. There's 15 in the state of Michigan. And like Karin said, she works for one of them, and all 15 centers are so amazing. I love going to visit all of them. I love going to visit and meet their staff. Today, I actually had the honor to go and attend the 25th anniversary of one of the centers. So that was exciting. A state representative was there to say a few words. Some of the things I'm passionate about also is MSU and all that it's included. So go green. I live in Grand Ledge, which is just about 20 minutes west of Lansing. I live with my husband. We have 3 adult children. We have a granddaughter who's just about 1 year old, and we have a dog, and her name is Izzy. So that's just a little bit about me personally. On a day-to-day basis, I prioritize working with the legislature. So I get to go in and talk to senators and representatives about how important it is for them to support our centers for independent living because of the work that all of them do. And we've had quite a streak of good luck with the legislature these last few years. We've had some pretty powerful advocates inside the state legislature that fight for our funding, because again, like Karin said, we do not work for profit, but we do need funding to exist. And we get some funding from the state and some funding from the federal level. And then all the centers receive some funding from local donors who are very generous, business owners, people who believe in the work that they're all doing. I'm looking at my cheat sheet. One of the things I enjoy the most is meeting new people in my role. And I've always done that no matter what role I've had. When I first came to Disability Network Michigan, it was a big learning curve because I didn't know anything about the independent living movement, but I did know about advocacy. And I have always tried to fight for the underdogs. And that was something that drew me to the network. Was here we have a group of people that are doing just awesome and amazing work to make sure that other people are empowered. That's something else that I most enjoy, is helping to empower other people, especially girls and especially my colleagues who are women. I have been known to work together with many great females, including Governor Whitmer. She was a senator at the time, and she and I worked pretty closely together on some legislation. So, you know, I'm excited to tell you that if I were to see Governor Whitmer on the sidewalk, she would say, "Hello, Teri." That's a huge, exciting part of my job. And one time I even rode the elevator with Governor Granholm, and it was just her, me, and her security person. So that was kind of fun. I was nervous though, because she's a governor, but there's a lot of things that I enjoy. There's a lot of things that kind of, test my patience on a day-to-day basis, especially when it's a legislator that I have to educate and explain things to, that they might not be seeing eye to eye with me. And so I just put on my best patient face, and I try to work through any questions they have about the work that we do, the reason we need the funding, what we do with the funding, because that's also important. Because when we are given taxpayer funding, we have to explain what we use it for, which I have no problem doing, because we keep the numbers of everyone we help every year. So another thing I get to do is I get to go in and give them a a piece of paper that says, here, look at our numbers. This is how many people we were able to help over the last year. And this is what we were able to do with all the funding the state gave us. And PS, can we have more? That's one of the things I have to do too. I have to ask them for more funding again, which is fine because the centers work very, very hard and they're very responsible with the funding that they do get, which the legislature likes. So I think one of my other questions I have, well, I kind of talked about the path that I got to where I am. I did have a passion. I do have a passion for advocacy. One of the things that I always wanted to do when I was working in the legislature was to be able to use all the skills that I learned there and help other people. So whether it's talking to all of you today about how to advocate, or talking to people within the centers of independent living on how to advocate, or my friends, one of the things I love to do is when they have questions about the government, or when they hear something or read something, they'll ask me because they know I can talk to them in ways that they understand. And not everybody does that. Even in, even when we're adults, not everybody does that. We talk to each other sometimes when we can't understand each other. So that's something else I'm known for, is that I can explain things on a level that everybody understands. And that is one of the things I'm most passionate about. I, thought about for 2 minutes about being a teacher, but that's not the path I wanted to go down. But this is kind of like that, when I can educate people on how the government works and, how to get a bill passed, what not to do when you're trying to get a bill passed, and all of those fun things. I feel like I talked forever.
Thank you so much. We'll take the time to open it up for some Girl Scout questions. So I'll pass the mic on over to you. So any Girl Scouts, if you want to ask either Commissioner Hopman or Teri a question, you can either raise your hand, or you can go ahead and answer or enter your questions in the chat. Oh, I see Reagan. You have your hand up. Go ahead and unmute and you can ask your question.
What's your favorite part of your job?
For Karen or me?
Both of you.
Both.
Okay. Karen, do you want to go?
Sure. Well, I think, as I mentioned before, what I love is feeling like the work that we do, it affects people, right? Real people. People get to have access to things that they might not have before. Even young kids, right? Having access to school and being able to get into the buildings and be able to hear things and see things. We work with people who don't have sight or don't have hearing, right? And how do we make things available for them? And when you make that available for them, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. You're up, Teri.
Okay. And I'd have to say that my favorite part of my job is being able to open the lines of communication and educate people on what the centers do and all of the access that they empower people with disabilities to have, because that's something that the legislature doesn't truly understand, and a lot of people in Michigan don't understand that that's what centers do, is that they help empower people. They don't do things for other people. They help teach them the skills that they need to do things on their own. And so part of that is advocacy. We teach them how to advocate for themselves, to go in and fight for, their rights that may be questioned. And, it's always a great day when someone tells you, thank you. And I know Karen can attest to that as well. And at the end of the day, I feel good because we're making the state of Michigan a better place for everybody, not just people with disabilities, but for everybody, because people with disabilities have families that, worry about them, that they might not be able to live on their own. And centers also educate families that it is possible, and they provide the resources that families need to help support their loved one who may have a disability. So at the end of the day, I think the best part of my job is that we're all working together to make Michigan a better place for everybody. I love your question. Thank you, Reagan.
That was a great question. Does anybody have any other questions? I haven't seen any come through in the chat. Let's see if anybody has their hand up. Let's see. I'll go ahead and ask a question. So our mission here at Girl Scouts is inspiring girls and building girls of courage, confidence, and character that make the world a better place. So with that mission in mind, what advice might you give a Girl Scout to go out and make a difference in her community?
I can go. I would say that in an effort to make a difference in your community, find something that isn't necessarily popular, but there's a need for it. And look around your neighborhoods. If there's, you know, one of the things that we do is we look at parks and we try to see if they're accessible for everybody. And that's a project that is going on in my hometown right now. I sit on the Parks and Recreation Commission as well because of my passion for creating inclusivity for everybody. And we have a park that was made accessible. And it was through people who went in and noticed that not everybody could use the parks. And so in order to inspire you to do something courageous in community, I would look around for the needs and identify what needs to be done and what's not being done. Because sometimes it's the bravest people that take on these projects that no one wants to take on. And it takes a pretty confident person. And the fact that all of you are on this phone call tonight, I know that you're pretty confident. And because you're talking to Karin and I, and you're asking great questions. And that's what I would truly say to all of you is look around and find the need. One of the quotes I love is that Mr. Rogers says, you know, look around and you'll find the people that care. I messed that quote up, but it's look around and you will see the helpers, and that's what all of you can be when you are in your neighborhoods. Look to see where they need help, whether it's helping, you know, maybe an older person carry something to their car or carry something to their door, or just saying hello. Sometimes our biggest need is just being able to say hello to somebody.
Thank you so much. And this is something we'll touch on a little bit later, Girl Scouts, but it doesn't have to be anything super big. You can make a difference through just those small acts of kindness. Maybe you're going to the grocery store and you hold the door open for 4 or 5 people who are carrying a big bag of groceries out. It doesn't have to be anything super big and super major. It's really those little things that add up that make a huge difference. Any other questions for our wonderful speakers tonight?
Sure, is that true? And am I seeing that?
Let's see. Anybody else have a question? Let's see. I don't see any more added in the chat. Don't see any hands up. Oh, one new message. Let's see. All right, I think that's it for our question portion for the evening. So with that being said, thank you, Teri, so much. And Karin, thank you so much both for taking the time to come on this evening and join the call on a Friday night. We have so much enjoying getting to know you and hearing just a small, important part about your role and what you do day in and day out. So thank you just on behalf of all of us tonight for joining the call. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening and enjoy your weekend. And thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having us. It's been a ton of fun, everybody.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank
And good
you.
luck to all of you.
Thank you. Take care to you both.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Alrighty, Girl Scouts, we're going to keep our evening going here. And if you can believe this is our last virtual session. Oh, I see a Round of applause. Awesome reaction feature. So if we can believe, this is actually our last virtual speaker series for this membership year, which is crazy to think. So we have one final presentation that we are going to go through tonight together that has to do a little bit more with what our speakers touched on tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen once again with us here. All right, let me move some things around quickly. Okay, there we go. So this leads us to tonight's topic. What are we going to be learning about tonight? Tonight, our guest speakers discuss utilizing your interests and passions to advocate for change. So we are going to be spending some time tonight talking a little bit more about this topic of owning your power, and you have the power to change the world. So just a brief overview of what does changing the world look like. So everyone can identify aspects of the world around them that they wish to see change. Maybe that's something you see on a daily basis. Maybe it's at school, maybe it's in your neighborhood. It's just something that you notice that you would like to see change. So some of these issues are small. They can be so small that no one feels the need to change them. However, there are also challenges faced by communities everywhere. And I've listed some examples here. So example number 1 is poverty. And example number 2 is a specific problem, or maybe more than one problem, within an individual neighborhood, such as a school that needs a new playground, or maybe a neighborhood that's experiencing rising crime rates. So, what does it mean to change the world? So, do you have to be out there with a megaphone leading a protest, maybe with a chant in front of a huge group of people? I'm going to ask you what you think. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I'll repeat that question. Do you have to be out there with a megaphone leading a protest or a chant in front of 5,000 people to make a change in the world? Thumbs up if you agree, thumbs down if you disagree. I see thumbs down. Okay, awesome. Question number 2. Do you have to run for government or work for an organization that's dedicated to a cause to change the world? Thumbs up or thumbs down? What do you think? Again, I see some thumbs down. You would be correct. So no and no. There are many other ways you can change the world other than being out there leading a protest or chant with a megaphone, or running for government office or working for an organization dedicated to a cause. There are so many other ways that you can change the world besides those two things. So, a making change misconception. So many people think that making a change only happens if an idea or an action is big. But that's not the case. Most change actually is the opposite. Change often occurs with small steps over time, thanks to individuals chipping away at issues little by little. So with this kind of change, you think about, what can I do to help the issue move towards a solution? So as we can see, the little picture down here on the bottom has problem all the way on the left side. And as you do little by little, you get closer to that solution. So we're going to use this as an example. So let's think, You have a huge passion for helping homeless animals. So maybe you can't save all the animals, but think about the kind of change you can make close to home in your local community. What might you do? And we're going to pause here for a moment so we can gather some of our ideas, brainstorm some ideas. So I want you to think about what kind of actions might you take to help animals in your local community? What might you do with that goal in mind of helping homeless animals? What might you do in your local community to help address that issue? I'm going to pause. I'm going to have you take a moment to answer in the chat if you would like to share your idea. What might you do in your local community to help homeless animals? Does anybody want to share? What might they do in their local community? You can either enter in the chat, or once again, if anybody wants to share out, you can go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, Reagan said, I would adopt a dog or a cat from the shelter. That would be a great way. Anybody have any other ideas? Let's see, Lila says, take the animal to the vet to make sure it's not sick or carrying any diseases. That is also a wonderful idea. Make sure that pet is healthy. Donate toys, post about it to help get the shelter, more people to adopt. All amazing ideas. Do a food drive for homeless animal shelter. You all thought of some wonderful ideas. Do a fundraiser. So we're going to say our solution, you all thought of some wonderful solutions. So we're going to think about that you decided to help make a difference by raising awareness and getting funding to add capacity or spaces to local animal shelters. Oh, and Grace said, call an animal shelter to pick it up so the animal will not get hurt. Yes, let somebody know so the animal does not get hurt. Another great idea. So we're going to say our solution was, I'm going to repeat that you decided to help make a difference by raising awareness and getting funding to add capacity or spots to local animal shelters. So just by doing that small step in your community, what might happen now? So that was your solution. And let's say another person in your community saw your efforts to help raise money for the animal shelter. You inspired that person and they decided to raise funds for the local animal shelter in their own community. And now your impact is starting to spread. True change occurs when more and more people recognize the benefits of doing things differently. While this can sometimes happen naturally, over time it often results from many individuals taking action to make a difference. Going back to those smaller things bit by bit, slowly start to make a huge impact and change. So there are 3 types of change that we're going to explore a little bit more tonight. The first type of change we're going to look at a little bit more closely is what is called large-scale change. The second type that we're going to look at tonight is small-scale change. And the last one is local change. It's personal. So we're going to take the time to explore each of those changes just a little bit more. So we're going to start with the first one, which is large-scale change. So this type of change can be very slow. So most of the time, people want immediate results. Large-scale change typically occurs so gradually, by the time we notice any difference, we might not even realize that any change has happened. So let's think about, do you know at least one woman who cast a ballot in the last election? And I'm going to pause here and we're going to share in the chat. Do you know one woman, maybe in your family, maybe it was your mom, maybe it was your sister, maybe it was your grandma, maybe it was an aunt, maybe a friend. Do you know at least one woman that cast a ballot in the last election? Go ahead and take the time to share those in the chat. My mom from Lila. Awesome. Yep, mom from Felicia. Anybody else? Mom from Mia. My mom and my dad. Yeah, so you all knew at least one woman who voted in the last election. Now I have a follow-up question for you. Were you surprised that she was allowed to vote? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Were you surprised that she was allowed to vote? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs down. And I see some shaking heads, no. No, you weren't surprised. And that's because the issue of a woman's right to vote was settled so long ago that most people no longer think about it. However, if you could travel back to 1920, which was a long time ago before any one of us was born, the first presidential election in which American women could vote, you'd find people thrilled about this important and sudden change. So looking back 100 years before that to 1820, you'd see that the change wasn't sudden at all. Thousands of women and men dedicated decades to shifting public opinion about women in voting. Although many didn't live to see the 19th Amendment ratified, without their earlier efforts, the change would never have occurred. So let's look at our second type of change, which is our small scale change. So focusing on that large scale change, which we just talked about, can make it feel like progress isn't happening at all, which can sometimes make working for change seem really difficult. So focusing on the big picture may not be the best approach, not just because it can be overwhelming at times, but the big picture is also problematic because change doesn't occur at a big level, even if it seems that way. It happens locally on a small scale, bit by bit. So let's take a look at some small scale examples. So example number 1. You can observe a county government designating funds for a low-cost spay and neuter clinic after a group of citizens rallied support from hundreds of people. That's our first example of that small scale change. Our next example is you can witness a group of neighbors organizing a picnic for community members and police officers to connect. And then our last example is when you look at small scale change related to a larger issue, you can see one state granting women the right to vote, which dates back to 1869. With the goal of the small scale change, which is to focus on local change so you can celebrate the small victories that contribute to the larger transformations. And then our last type of change that we're going to explore tonight is local change. It's personal. So many people recognize an issue because it's something that's personal to you or affects you. So let's take a look at some of the examples that I've included. So the first one is you soaked your shoes again because every time it rains, the storm drain backs up on your street and it floods. And you wish they would do something about it. And then example number 2 for local change. Your sister cuts herself on a broken glass piece in an empty lot where all kids play, and you wish they would clean up the lot and transform it into a park. So this is how much of meaningful change starts. So if you see it as an issue, chances are others also see it as an issue, and they might be waiting for someone else to take action. With the right skills, you don't have to wait. You can rally support, reach out to the right people, and drive change yourself. So what I want you to think about right now is what are some skills that you might have that you would think would be important to promote local change? We can enter some of those skills in the chat. So I'll repeat that question. What skills do you might have that would be important to promote local change? What do you think? What skills might you have that would be important to promote local change? Leadership from Grace, absolutely. The ability to lead a group towards a common goal and working together. Anybody else have any other thoughts? Same as the others. Organized and helpful. Absolutely. Creativity, another important one. To look at things maybe in a little bit different way, bring a different perspective. Responsible, respectful. You all have some great qualities that would be great additions to make local changes. And then that last bullet point here, change relies on numbers. So the more voices highlighting an issue, the more likely they will listen and take action. So now we're going to dive into some critical thinking scenarios. So what you're going to do is you're going to work with a small group in a breakout room. You will be given a chance, a change the world scenario, one at a time to work on with your group. What you're going to do is you're going to read the scenario and you're going to answer the discussion questions. There's about 3 discussion questions that you'll answer with your group. You're going to select one group member to be your note taker, and you're going to select one spokesperson for the group to report out when we come back all together. So before we go into our breakout rooms, we're going to do an example together of what it's going to look like. So example scenario. So you're going to have the summary of your challenge or your issue up here at the top. So the one for this one is Sally has younger twin sisters who are struggling in school. Their mom works 3 jobs and has no time. So Sally has been trying to find out more about tutoring. Her sister's school receives no funding for tutoring, and a private tutor is too expensive. Sally is really concerned and frustrated there is nowhere to get additional help for her sisters. So that's the summary of the issue you're going to discuss with your group. And then you're going to answer these discussion questions. So the first question is you're going to figure out what's the personal motivator. So what do you want and why? This is what makes you personally motivated to do something. So Sally's personal motivator is Sally wants her sisters to do well in school, so they will have more opportunities for colleges and jobs in the future. Your second discussion question is you're going to think about how Sally might address the issue on an individual scale, huge scale, and local scale. So you're going to think about with your group finding a balance between taking on too much and only improving your own situation. So typically this means local action. So you're going to think about what could be done for each level of the scale. So once again, that individual scale, huge scale, and local scale. In this example, for the individual scale, Sally wants to find help for her sisters. That's what she's doing on the individual scale. On the huge scale, she would want to make help available for all the kids in the United States. That's that large scale change. Then on the local scale or small scale change, she would make help available for all kids at her sister's elementary school. So that's what Sally might do for each type of change. Then the last discussion question is you're going to think about what will it take to get this job done? Which this will then become your focus question for working on the issue. So for Sally, her focus question was, what will it take to get free help for the kids at my sister's school? That was what her focus question was in this scenario. Does anybody have any questions before we go into the first? I will show you the breakout room scenario number 1. We'll read through it briefly together before I put you in the breakout rooms. Okay, so this is going to be, it skipped ahead. Breakout room scenario number 1. So you can see your scenario summary is up here at the top. Annie lives in a rural Michigan community where many people have horses. She knows many homes where the horses are suffering badly from neglect. Animal control could intervene, but there aren't any horse rescue facilities close by. Annie can't stand watching these horses suffer. And then below, you'll see the discussion questions. You're going to figure out what her personal motivator is, scale up, how Annie might tackle this issue on an individual, huge, and local scale. And then you're going to go ahead and decide on what the focus question would be for that scenario. Any questions before I put you in the breakout room? And I will be sure I will add this slide so you're able to see it in your breakout room. So no need to write any of these things down right now. You'll be able to see it and talk about it with your group. And I'll give you a few minutes to discuss, and then we'll come back together and share out. So remember, 1 note taker and 1 spokesperson. Okay, I don't see any questions, so I will go ahead and put you in breakout rooms. And then just give me a moment and I will make sure you get the slide up in your room. We're going to do 2 breakout rooms. In person want to share out? Yes, I see a hand up. Go ahead and share with us.
So we were talking about how Emily could get like contractors and help let the city write letters to the city to help with cleaning it up, and that she couldn't do it on her own because it's such an old building and it could fall or it breaks until it's from 1875.
Mm-hmm.
So she would need help, and yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Enlist the help with some professionals that have a great deal of experience with that kind of construction. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Does anybody want to add to that from either Grace's group or another group? Yes, go ahead. I see a hand up.
So they wanted to clean the building and so they could all see what she found. And the third one,
And then the third one, we didn't really get to the second one.
That's okay.
I didn't really remember it. But the third one, we said that we can make a fundraiser to clean out the place so everybody can see the stone that they discovered.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
That was it.
Some great ideas. Thank you so much for sharing. And Reagan, I see your hand is up. Do you want to add something to that?
So we were just saying, like, for the individual scale, that she might it would be hard to do it all by herself, so it would be easier if she had like a group of people to like help get the building like actually like brought together, like, and have people like help and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, a group of people come together and help work towards a common goal. Absolutely. And Mia, I see your hand up as well. You can go ahead and share out with us.
I guess she would need someone who specializes in genuinely old stuff because it's very fragile, whether you get like someone in college to do it or a really good professional, which I feel like would be harder if you got a professional. So nothing just crumbles down. Get a professional or someone who or historical someone or something like that. So she has an idea what she's doing and how to handle these things.
Absolutely. Similar to Grace and to, I think, a professional as well. If they need to replace any materials, then they might have an idea of where you could get some pieces to restore some of those historic pieces that you would want to keep and preserve. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wonderful ideas. We're going to go into one last breakout room scenario, but this time you're going to be able to use your creativity and you're going to be able to choose your own scenario with your breakout room. So before we do, we're just going to recap that. Remember, many people recognize an issue because it's personal to them. So what you're going to do is you and your group are going to think of one issue that affects your group. So maybe it's an issue at school, maybe it's in your neighborhood, or just around your local community. And you're going to write a short blurb like the previous scenarios to summarize that issue as you are seeing or experiencing it. And then you're going to go ahead and take the time to answer those discussion questions. So since you are creating your own scenario, I'll give you about a little bit longer in this particular breakout room. If you don't get to all the discussion questions, that's okay. Just get to what you can, and then we'll go ahead and share out once we come back. Does anybody have any questions about making up their own scenario before we break out one more last time? If not, okay, looks like we're good to go. Put you in, like I said, I'll give you a little bit longer. This slide will appear so you're able to see what you're going to do. Does anybody want to share out what issue they came up with their group? Reagan, go ahead and share, and then we'll pass on over to Grace after that.
So our scenario was Reagan has been getting out of school and it is really crowded and the traffic's really bad. And so when she's trying to get home, the traffic and construction is blocking the roads and stuff.
Okay, awesome.
And we only got to one discussion question.
That's okay. Share out what you got done.
So she's gonna talk to her parents to try to like do something, I don't know, like,
Yeah.
and then like she's gonna try to talk to the school to like maybe get a better like getting out of school like thing. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe the flow of traffic and enlisting the help of some adults to see if they can help brainstorm some additional ideas. I think that's a great idea. Grace, I think I saw your hand up. Go ahead and share out.
So like Reagan said, because we were in the same group, she was saying how our character Reagan was like her school was letting them out together because this is a K-12 school, so now it's going to be really crowded. So including the school trying to get out at the same time and the construction traffic is really crowded. So we were going to talk to the city council and maybe the school board to try to extend the timings like for the classes so it won't be as much as traffic.
Maybe stagger the dismissal a little bit more based on, so not everybody's getting out at once. That's a great idea. I see another hand up. Go ahead and share out. Is that Lila? Is your hand up? Oh yeah, go ahead.
So we want the teachers to talk to
To
us.
take better care of us, so they would get us. And maybe how we could do it is have a conference with them, and that would be the scale of like local. And the third thing is like talking to the principal about it.
If they like, if there's a fight in school, you want to talk to your principal about it.
Yeah, so
Or
they
like
are
an argument or something like that.
Yep, so they are in the loop as to what's happening. Absolutely. Thank you so much. Does anybody else want to add anything else their group talked about? Let's see. Looks like we have everybody that wanted to share. Great. So you all thought both groups saw of some pretty awesome examples that are happening to you and are personal to you, which like we talked about, that's how a lot of those changes start, is because it directly affects you. So thank you so much for taking the time to share out. So keeping it moving. So we are going to start to wrap up our call this evening. So I just want to thank you all, whether you joined maybe one virtual speaker series, maybe you've been to a few, maybe you've been to all of them. Just thank you so much for taking the time to join us along the way throughout this speaker series and getting to hear and work and engage with some pretty wonderful women. So we have some of our speakers that joined us along the way here on this slide, just to recap everybody that we have seen throughout the virtual speaker series. So this is our first slide here, and then we have one more as well. So these are all of our women leaders that have joined us along the way, like I said, in the speaker series, which started in December of 2023, if you can believe it, and is wrapping up tonight before we get started in our next Girl Scout membership year. So I just want to pause for a moment here. And like I said, maybe you joined us for one session, maybe you joined us for 3 or 4, maybe you've been here for all of them. I just want to take a moment, if anybody has a favorite memory, since this is our last call for tonight. If anybody has a favorite memory, or maybe a lesson they're taking away, or maybe a favorite speaker that you saw along the way, if anybody wants to share those in the chat, or if you want to unmute and just share out, I just want to take just a moment just to have a little reflection time if anybody wants to share a favorite memory from the experience. You can enter them in the chat or share out. Reagan, go ahead.
I just liked listening to like all of like them talking, because like I've been like, because when we started I started doing this, I was just like, I don't want to be part of like government stuff, but now it sounds really cool, and like now I kind of want to do that when I get older, because it like sounds like you can help people and you can just do a lot of like fun stuff and like work with people and like, yeah.
Yeah, so just learning a little bit more maybe about a new topic, or maybe something you thought you knew a little bit about, and just seeing and hearing more about it, and you might learn something new, and it might be a new interest of yours. So something I really enjoyed throughout this experience is I just enjoyed hearing all the different women's paths to get to where they are today. And I think was really interesting and wonderful to see that you don't have to take a certain route to get to where their leadership role is today. They started at many different points and they've had many diverse experiences. and they all bring a different perspective to their role because of that. So I just think hearing everyone's unique journey was something that was really valuable and something valuable and lessons learned for each one of our speakers that we were able to see. Anybody else? Hope I see our speakers tonight were a favorite memory. Awesome. They were both wonderful. Anybody else? I'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. If you think of something else, feel free to add it. So our last portion is just our surveys. So make sure you take the time to fill out your survey, not only on your way to earning your MWC patch along the way, but also it just is a great way to get feedback from everyone as to ways we can continue to improve our Girl Scout programs. So take the time to fill those surveys out now. And I will enter them in the chat as well. I just have to take down this slide just for a moment. I will share it here in just a second. I want to get them added to the chat. I got to pull out a separate document. So give me 1 second and I will pull it right back up for everyone. But I will enter the links in the chat as well. If you'd like to do it that way instead. Okay, so here is our youth survey link, and I will add the adult survey link as well. Okay, there is the adult survey link, and let me get the QR codes back up here for you. There we go. So once again, if you are taking the survey, thank you so much again for joining us this evening. And I am so looking forward to seeing you all at future life skills events. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and we will see you soon, like I said, at another life skills event. Take care, everybody.